1,580 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered, code red, an internal murder. That's what evidence shows. Evidence shows that. It's not something we want. We are absolute pro-Army. We're pro-Army. Our whole life has been pro-Army, and, generations in our family. And, we don't want to say that 44 four-star generals have betrayed our country, have betrayed our volunteer sons and daughters, have betrayed our Constitution, because their duty is to defend the Constitution to death, unto death. That's why we would say thank you for your service. And so I remember a person in our family, our extended family, saying, "Oh, Rob, you're medical. I'm so glad that you're not a soldier." And he goes, "What are you talking about? I'm first a soldier. I carry a weapon. I will defend the Constitution. That's my oath." And of course, he's a physician assistant. Well, he was a medic. He was a nurse, a medic. And then, of course, went to PA school. That early program, and they were still CW. They were warrant officers when they graduated, and now they're officers. But during the Gulf War, Congress, anyone that had a 4-year degree and met all the requirements were then commissioned overnight, and Rob received his commission. So he started as enlisted, worked his way up, worked through PA school, became a warrant officer. I pinned on CW3 on him, and then he became a commissioned officer and retired after 30 years as a lieutenant colonel. And very distinguished, he's just impeccable record. And this criminal group that targeted Richard, that are the suspects of murdering Richard, have spent years targeting our family. That includes Rob, right? That includes this retired lieutenant colonel, 30 years service. That includes him with this impeccable record, very decorated. And this is their desperation to cover up their crime. And we're not happy. But Richard is a code red. Evidence, hard evidence, absolutely confirms to us. And of course, there was so much evidence that the Department of Defense had no choice but to declare Richard deceased on April 24th, 2024. And we received, we were part of offering all of, filing all of the documents, all of the evidence. Not all of it. We gave them so much. It sounds, there's so much. But enough of it that they had no choice, and they did it this year. And we still have not received our son's remains with dignity. We have not received our son's remains at all. Matter of fact, they wanted to be undignified about it and put out false narratives, because the paperwork, the receipts show that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss, and it's internal. And we're not happy about that. We're really very, very sad about that. But But Richard's case is so big, y'all. It's so big, and I'm not exaggerating. And of course, being shadow banned, so we really need for everyone watching to share this information. Those that want any future, that want any future at all. You see, when things like this happen, it's a spiral downward into the depths, the very dark depths of hell, right? And it pulls. It's like an undertide, right? And it pulls everyone down. It doesn't um, distinguish, you know. And so, if you're on the evil side and you think that um, these the vortex of hell won't grab your heel and drag you down, then you're very mistaken. And it's a very bad place to be. And so this case is so big, and so we've spoken out even against those who have blocked us, who have falsely reported us, who have intimidated us, who have harassed us, who have threatened us, who have tried to stop us just by sending us day in and day out harassing, vile, vulgar messages. The worst about our son, who is an absolute hero in all of this, a whistleblower hero, and tried to do a psyop on us, tried to make us question ourselves about our relationship with our son, about our family. They are absolute evil, using asymmetric warfare tactics on a veteran family, on a Gold Star family, and with leadership like this, who needs enemies, right? Who needs enemies? And we're not happy that it is an internal code red, but that's the evidence confirms it is. And because Richard's case is so big, it extends more, because they targeted him before his murder. They targeted him. They um, uh, used all the powers that they could wrongly, used tools that we have entrusted into our military and our leadership, and even in our local El Paso government there, um, to weaponize it against Richard, to intimidate him, to um, threaten him, to destroy him, to discredit him. And they used, so these people abuse their badges. And I'm thinking about Melendez. I'm thinking about the other officer. I'm thinking about CID agent Tavita Nusa. I'm thinking about Marlon Soto. I'm thinking about, these are the outside. There's so many. There's so many. The Texas Ranger. So many that abuse their power, abuse their uniform, abuse their badge, um, and weaponized it against Richard, the whistleblower that exposed the criminal trafficking, that stood up to the criminal trafficking, and did more to it. Did more, just didn't talk to other people about it, but absolutely made official reports and became an official whistleblower. He was in communication with Washington, D.C. The IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. He was in communication with FBI Houston. He was in communication with the CID. He was in communication with 911. He was in communication. He filed reports with Child Protective Services multiple times. So he was absolutely documenting everything that he was exposed to, the crime that he was exposed to, and he made a documentary, a small little video where he is burning Hollywood money, and he is saying, I rather burn money than spend it on whores and blow. Um, and there's more videos and there's more information, and then there's also what he told us, and so we absolutely know that, and that made us be able to stand up to the psyop, the false narrative that they were giving to us about our son, knowing that they were behind this cover up, and we thought that they were just covering up Richard's murder because they were in trouble because of Vanessa Guillen, because of Vanessa Guillen's brutal murder and her dismemberment, and their botching of trying to locate her, and the family having to rally and tell them no, she wouldn't just leave. Where is she? And then them calling off the search when they had found a key piece of evidence, the Pelican case, which had carried her remains. And yet they called off the search, and yet weeks later the animals alerted linemen of a grave, and it was Vanessa Guillen's grave, a very sophisticated grave, a foxhole where they had put her dismembered remains, and they put lime and concrete and dirt over it and everything. um, and very sophisticated, but God wanted it found, and they were in big trouble. They were in very, very big trouble, and so the scrutiny of Fort Hood and Fort Bliss was immense, was absolutely immense, and of course, um, with Richard's reports and everything, um, they were in big, big trouble. But politics was just so crazy in 2020. It was so crazy. It was insane. It was insane. That's the only way I can say it. You just felt like you were in a whirlwind of insanity, like in the center, and you just see all these insane faces at you, like in a nightmare or something like that, twirling around you. It was just absolutely insane, and I'm really happy that that storm is coming to an end. It's not totally over, but it's coming to an end, and it's at the sound of a trumpet's blare. In this last poem that I put up, a trumpet's blare, absolutely, and it's the people of the United States have had enough. And so we thought that Richard's, the cover up was because of Vanessa Guillen's, just, and our love goes out to the Guillen family, because I'm sure, um, I just don't think you ever recover from something like that. And never. And I know they don't. I know they don't. So, our heart goes out to them. Our love goes out to them. And the other, Morales too, that family, because they found another remains when it was just such a disaster, and Fort Hood, which is now Fort Cavazos, and Fort Bliss, they were under the same leadership, and Donna Martin absolutely is so guilty. She is just, with a leader like her, who needs an enemy, almost like who needs the devil, with a leader like that, who needs the devil. um, it's just so bad because she's Army IG now, and they just rewarded her for being the devil, or a minion of the devil, at least that. And of course, so many others, McConville and Millie, and um, Matlock, and Sean Bernabe, and of course Clem Coward, and there's just so many, and it's very we don't get pleasure, um, saying how they have betrayed our sons and daughters, our volunteer sons and daughters, how they have abused their power, how they have used the tools that we gave them, the uniform that we gave them, the stars that we gave them, that the monies that we give them, and used it as weapons against our own children, our own future, our own constitution. It is really, really sad. And so we're not, we thought you know, that was the big reason they were really under scrutiny, um, and that is why they were covering up the murder. It was so obvious. But it's more than that. It's the case is really, really big. And there, El Paso, right there on the border, U.S. Mexico border, the Siamese sister city of Juarez, Mexico, because they are totally connected. They're totally connected. Just the Rio Grande, you can walk over the bridge, um, ports of entry, very easy. And it really is susceptible to criminal trafficking. It is just like rich for that. It is just like the place to be if you want to criminal traffic, because it's just uh, uh, everything about it, everything about it. And then having Fort Bliss right there, one of the biggest, if not the largest, I think a landmass, it's the largest military base. And the monies that flow in, the absolute money, the contracting, right? It's just huge. It is just huge. And you have all of the equipment and the weapons and the ammunition and all the tactical move storage units and the fuel and the trucks and all of this stuff. And of course, you have the Germans there. The Germans just left recently, after like decades of being there. I think that they came shortly after World War II. Um, um, Someone please tell me, but it's very clear. And that they were there, and that is part of Richard's case, because you know it you will understand it goes into the Walmart mass shooting. It plays into getting false benefits by yeah, so it's really big. and and what did we discover? That this criminal network, um, in beautiful city. Oh my gosh, El Paso is just such a beautiful city. It's such a beautiful location. It's a historic city. It's an ancient city. It has grids everywhere, underground everywhere, because it's an ancient city. And a lot of people don't know that, they don't realize the ancient history of the United States. And, these, when you look from above and you can see these grids, they are just like prime property to build, because the foundation is there, the grid is there already. And I'm not talking about electricity grid. I'm talking about just the foundation of a city, because it's an ancient city. Um, and that's why there's so much underground, right? There's so much underground there. My dad would tell me about all the underground um, in El Paso. And I used to, when we were stationed there, I used to jog all over Fort Bliss, swam with the sharks there at the replica. When the replica, and I don't know if it's still, I don't think it is still a Olympic sized swimming pool, but when I swam there, it was a Olympic sized swimming pool. I went to Bassett, went to MacArthur Elementary, went kindergarten, on Fort Bliss. And I was born at White Sands Missile Range, the missile range, um, historic, really historic. So my parents belonged to the German American Club there. my mother's my well, all my grandparents are German, so we speak German, so that played a part in preparing for this whole case with Richard. But it's even bigger than that, and it's reached into the judicial system. So you have this this criminal trafficking network that has made a lot of people up to no good very wealthy, very wealthy, right? And then and then they can get into the contracting and fund their businesses and things like that. Um, but they still have to launder the money, and they still have to have a bank, right? They still have to have a bank, and all of this, the foundation and the bank and all of this, it all makes sense when you see the just $90 billion alone for the narcotics trafficking there. Can you imagine the billions with the child trafficking, the human trafficking, the organ trafficking, the weapons traffic? Well, the weapons trafficking is huge because that includes the theft of it, right? So the weapons trafficking, the ammunition trafficking is very big. Then equipment, a lot of equipment and everything. And when you have trucks and tactical move storage units, you have people inside, and then you can use the fuel from the base. You can use all what the Americans have given. And so when people look at $37 trillion in debt and say, where did it go? We should have golden roads. We should have golden bridges. We should have platinum and gold and silver lined everywhere, all over our country, and every road should just be sparkling and never ever a pothole. And we should have amazing vehicles, and everyone should have a little flying plane, and um, everyone should have a private tutor for their for their family or their group or whatever. I mean, it's just it goes on. No homeless, no nothing. I mean, $37 trillion, and the unfunded liabilities is in the hundreds of trillions of dollars. Um, it's just huge. We can't wrap our head around that kind of money. And you wonder, where did it go? Where did it go? Because our roads are, our infrastructure is not up to par. It's not up to par. And we have a lot of problems. And our education is not up to par. And there's clearly theft going on. There's clearly lots of theft going on. And it's the suffering of a country to a criminal syndicate, a criminal, um, where there is no law of God, right? Where there are no sacraments, then you just have a band of robbers. You just have a land of thieves, right? Um, and so that's this area, El Paso, um, clearly into criminal trafficking. And it's not me saying that. You have the new border czar, Tom Homan. God bless him. He came out and said it, that El Paso is the nucleus. He identified that El Paso is the nucleus for the human trafficking, and he wants to secure the border. Of course, you have to. And then he wants to know about these children, the hundreds of thousands of children that are missing or unaccounted for. They were unaccompanied, which is like a nightmare for any mother, unaccompanied. So unaccompanied, and now mostly dead, and mostly dead. So this is a huge concern for the border czar. And he wants to find these children. He wants to know where they're at. And that will take him, I think, to some very ugly places. Very ugly places. But um, so that that is what's going on in El Paso, in that criminal networking group. But how did they do it? Um, well, it reached into the judiciary, and that's what we've exposed. Also, also breaking news, everybody! Breaking news. The judiciary in El Paso has been exposed to be a fraud. To be a fraud. The El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court is exposed as a fraud. And that is just, mind blowing. No way, you can't, no way, that can't be. Yeah, it is. Since 2015, it is absolutely a fraud. Um, and it's because of Texas Constitution. Texas Constitution, I'm doing everything by memory. Um, Article 5, Section 30, um, which requires judges with on courts that have full jurisdiction to be elected. Okay. And then, of course, the beautiful number of 54,732. So Texas law 54.732. Look that up. Look that up. And when you look that up, you will see it will say El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court. That is what is going on. We, Team 5 Richard Halliday, we set that off. We exposed that. And it wasn't on purpose, it was because of the corruption in our son's case that led us to the court, the jail, which is the courthouse, the jail office there, and exposed the magistrate court. And just looking into that, it just, you couldn't believe it. You're like, oh my gosh, this entire panel of judges, it's 5 judges right now, this entire panel of judges, they're illegal. They are absolutely illegal. They have no authority. So what does that mean? It means that when you have a court that has full jurisdiction, which in 2015, the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court, there was an amendment that gave it full county-wide jurisdiction. When that happened, that meant that the judges needed to be elected. They needed to start elections for these judges that sit on this very powerful court, right? When a court is that powerful, the Texas Constitution says, hold on a minute, hold on. We are a republic, right? We're a democratic republic. We have a say-so. The people have a say-so in who has the power. And so we get to scrutinize and we get to elect. And that was the case for this court. But you know what? They didn't do it. And since 2015, these appointed judges that are up to no good, has sat on that court. And you have to understand those judges, they absolutely control investigations because investigations are controlled by warrants and subpoenas, right? So they control it. They control the investigations. And so this is very important for our son's murder case. And so I have just a little bit here that I wanted to read, some notes here that I already put up, but because I try to be as transparent as I can, looking up this Article 5, Section 30, see, well, I was right, of the Texas Constitution and Texas Government Code 54.732. I think I'm going to get a plaque with 54.732 inscribed on it and put it up on my wall. it is, yeah, it is very, very special. And of course, Article 5, Section 30, I think the whole thing, I need to have a plaque, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to have this kind of government that gives the people a voice and makes those that have power accountable. They are accountable for when they do wrong things. And so in this case, it's very important. So what does this mean? What does this mean for Richard's case, right? We know Richard's case is his truth is under the Walmart mass shooting case. We know that they use that to cover up his truth. But what does this mean about this magistrate court? And we got word very early on, um, because Richard had so many subpoenas and warrants in his case. Okay, so many. And we got word, of course, Robert Shook was the judge, and that Penny Hamilton was the Mag Court judge that had to determine the investigation into Richard's murder, right? And so, how do they determine it? They're the ones of decide on what subpoenas, what warrants are issued, and if there's any issued at all. And so this is really important. Um, and, because if Penny Hamilton was not elected, and she was not elected, that means that everything she did is invalid. That means this whole investigation, you know, um, I can say on her part, whatever she did for Richard's investigation, um, is is illegitimate. Is illegitimate, and that means, yeah, and it's so beautifully said here. In Richard's case, Penny Hamilton, a magistrate of the court, allegedly lacked the constitutionality required electoral legitimacy after amendments to the court structure in 2015. If true, her authority to issue warrants, subpoenas, or other legal actions critical to the investigation would be legally invalid. That is huge. That is huge. The impact on evidence and judicial actions. This is huge. The subpoenas, um, the whistleblowing activities, the disappearance interference, right? All of this might be and is because she wasn't elected. So this is all true. Is undermined. The warrants, the logs, everything, the procedural irregularities that delay everything. It's just huge. And I want to say also in the case of our son's remains, because right now, of course, we have the declaration of death. We have the receipts that show that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss, and now we want his remains. And so any warrants or the whole chain of custody when it comes to our son's remains, because we have evidence that confirms that they had Richard's remains, partial remains. How much of the partial part of him that they had, we don't know. We would like his remains, and we would like to get them back with integrity, right? And so, what do I mean by that? We just want them to show some respect, you know, for our country, for our Constitution, for our military, for our volunteer sons and daughters, for our volunteer son. We would like them to show some respect instead of the intimidation, the bullying, his murder, his retaliation. And now the court is botched. the court is illegitimate. And I shouldn't say the court is illegitimate. It's that these individuals that sit on the court are illegitimate because they have to be elected. The court is perfectly fine. And the law says they have to be elected to sit on this beautiful, very powerful, county-wide jurisdiction court. And yet the individuals that sit on this powerful court are not elected. Therefore, they're illegitimate according to the law, not to me, according to the law. And that's why I put that out there. Because if you look up on the internet, Google it, 54.732, right? Look it up. What comes up over and over again? The El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court. Because that is where the seismic earthquake shaking is going on because of Team Fine Richard Halliday. Because of Team Fine Richard Halliday. And there it is, the hard proof, the hard evidence people have been waiting for. We're right again. We're right again. We have reported. We've been telling you the truth. We have been reporting. We have been filing. We have been filing so much. We have been doing all this work behind the scenes. And it is absolutely seismic earthquake that's going on right now. That's showing that there is a problem in El Paso in the judiciary. A huge problem. And that means that every order that comes out of there, the people that process those orders are culpable. We had to file to let them know that anyone that carried out the orders of these imposters, these criminals, right now they're criminals because they are acting as imposters of government officials. And we're not getting honest service. They're getting all this money. And that was approved by first Veronica Escobar and now Samaniego. I think his name is Richard Samaniego. I'm not sure, but I think it is. Judge Samaniego. And they're the ones that are approving the pay. So all of this has to be filed. It has to be reported. And we've done this work. And now there is this seismic earthquake because we're right. We're right. The Texas Constitution is being violated. Texas law is being violated. The rights of all of those that go through this court is violated. And of course, this new DA, Montoya. So Montoya works for the public defender. So all of his cases, probably 100% of them, went through the MAG court. And he is not raising alarms. He needs to raise alarms because his clients' rights are being totally obliterated. He's a public defender. And now he was voted in as the district attorney for the 34th Judicial District. And he's not raising alarms. What kind of district attorney is he going to be? I mean, this is criminal activity. And so, so it raises questions of the whole judiciary, the whole legal system, the law enforcement system in El Paso is being totally shaken right now. I don't know how they're going to handle it because they can't cover it up. They can't go back. How do you go back 19 years? No, is it? No, 9 years. How do you go back 9 years? Right? 2015. Okay, so custody of the remains. uh, That is where our concerns are. Our legal concerns are our son's remains. Um, of course, the violation of due process, especially when it comes to like Patrick Crucius. Patrick Crucius was arraigned through the Mag Court, through Penny Hamilton. And Penny Hamilton now is retired, and now she went to go work for the usurper Bill Hicks, um, which is also another violation, right? Um, and look at the FBI. The FBI is absolutely, absolutely affected by this. So, yeah, it's going to be the state and federal agencies. And talking about that, Penny Hamilton, and I think it's Beto Acosta. He's the head judge in that. Of course, you have the Council of Judges. I mean, everything it's just a seismic earthquake right now. Shaking, 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 right? Um, they have to work with the FBI. So their violations are not just in the state, these are state and federal violations. They're looking at federal penalties, maybe federal imprisonment, um, when it comes to how they deal with the federal violations that they have committed. I'm telling you, this is so huge. When I first said Richard's case is probably the biggest criminal cover up case in the history of the United States, I wasn't saying it from emotion or from my hip. Um, we have a whole room here of charts and evidence and everything, and we've put it just about all out. I mean, if they ever came to collect it, they could, because it's all out there. We've just given, um, so much of it is out there, and shared with everybody. It's crazy. We have been very, very transparent in all of this. So, um, I just, I wasn't joking. I wasn't over exaggerating. I wasn't being emotional. I was being absolutely forthright with the analysis of all of the information that we have. Richard's case is one of the, if not the largest, biggest, hugest criminal cover up cases in U.S. history. And if you want to just see a little bit of it, you can go to 54.732. Just Google that. And anytime you see the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court, say Richard Halliday. Say Richard Halliday. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. God bless you. And we will be back tomorrow.